to Hot Hardware's 2.5 Geeks. We're back. It's been a while. We missed you. We hope you missed us. I'm Dave Altavilla, your host, and I am with the illustrious Marco Chiappetta, and there's Marco, he's waving, and we have Hot Hardware's Paul Lilly today, the infamous, or famous, we don't know which, Paul Lilly. Say hi, Paul.
Hey, how you doing?
Paul is joining us. He's been with us for years, and he's one of our tech editors at Hot Hardware. He covers lots of beats from gaming systems to components like graphics cards to even mobile stuff. The guy's a jack of all trades, and we're happy to have him with us as the half geek today. I don't know. You get too much geek credit, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe 3/4 geek.
3/4 geek, we'll give you that. Marco, how's it going over there, bro? You're still getting more svelte by the day.
I'm doing good. Yeah, 105 pounds now about that I'm down. Doing good. Weather's nice. I have some landscapers in the yard right outside this window, so if you hear some funky noises, that's what it is.
We will excuse the weed whacker, and yeah, you're now coming up on beach season, and you're totally pulling out the beach bod in the next month or so, aren't you?
This whole part from like here to here is still jello, but at least I won't get harpooned and rolled back into the water.
Yeah, that would be tragic. That would be tragic. No, don't say that. You're fit as a fiddle now, bro. That's awesome.
I'm getting there.
It's awesome. So yeah, let's talk tech and cut the chit chat so we don't bore people too much. But we're interesting, sort of. Let's talk about some of the headlines we've missed since we've been away. Sorry, everybody, we've been out of the loop here. Got real busy for the last couple of weeks, but we're back, and we've got lots to talk about in the land of tech. Marco, you took a look at. You actually went out for a little deep dive on Intel's latest Xeon refresh based on Haswell EX architecture. Tell us what you saw, heard, and felt, maybe.
Yeah, so this was one of those trips where I left and my brain felt completely melted and fried because it was like big iron type, mission critical enterprise type stuff. But yes, what I saw and what I got to experience firsthand, unfortunately I don't have one in the lab for myself yet, but I would love a couple of these things. I saw Intel's latest E7 8800 and 4800 V3 series processors. Now, the actual cores on these chips are very similar to the desktop Core i7 5960X. They're based on Haswell EX, but the top of the line, the really big chips, can have up to 18 of these cores, 32 threads, up to 45 megs of cache. They have lots of the same on-die PCI Express connectivity. But features are enabled like TSX, lots of stuff to accelerate, big data applications, enterprise applications, and the platforms themselves are optimized, for stability, basically, and reliability. If you're going to have a rack of servers featuring these processors, you can't afford any downtime. You don't want anything to go down ever. It's always got to be there. So lots of the platform specifics are geared towards reliability, low power consumption, things like that. Now, in addition to the insane number of cores on these chips, another thing Intel has done is allow them to support DDR3 or DDR4 through the use of these, basically their buffer boards. So overall, you're talking about processors versus the previous gen with roughly 20% more cores or threads, depending where you are going up and down the stack. You have up to 20% more cache, and performance is significantly improved basically across the board. You have clock-for-clock improvements on the cores. You have more cache, so more data fits on the chip, so less transactions on and off the chip. You have faster QPI links between chips. There's just lots and lots of stuff going on here for the enterprise, just super high-end processors.
So 18 cores, 45 megs of cache. Holy crap. And now that's SRAM cache, right?
I don't even know what the heck is it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It's usually on chip L2 SRAM cache or L3 in this case, shared L3 cache, I think, right?
Yep.
And they are it just blows me away how much memory and how many cores you can squeeze on a chip these days. DDR3, DDR4. Is this socket compatible to legacy DDR3 systems?
Yes, so
Okay.
they're socket compatible with the V2 system. So lots. I don't think many people in enterprise are upgrading just processors in their servers. So I don't know how big of an issue it is, but yes, it is socket compatible with the previous gen. But what they offer is what Intel calls the Intel Scalable Memory Buffer boards. So the processor is connected on one board, and the memory is basically connected on a secondary board that kind of slides into the platform. There's pictures in the article to show what this looks like. And those scalable memory buffer boards can work with either DDR3 or DDR4, depending on which one you use.
So there's a shot at them here. So those are the memory buffer boards. I'm looking at what
Yes.
looks like heck, eight DIMM sockets times 2, 16. No, wait a minute, 6, 12 DIMM sockets.
What you're showing is the DDR4 version of that, the higher end version of the DDR4 scalable memory buffer. Now,
Okay.
with that particular one, like just to give you an example of how crazy a system can be set up, with an 8-socket board with basically 8 of these in there, a single server can address up to 12 terabytes of memory. It's just insane.
What that's I guess you're talking about. I'm trying to think of the application here. I guess you're talking about that many cores, that much local memory, not I should say storage cache or anything like that, but local memory. You're talking about heavily virtualized applications here. You're talking about total, cloud server kind of stuff. You're not talking about, the average web server, what have you. You're talking about serious big iron server hardware, right?
Yeah, this is big data analytics type stuff where the more data you can keep close to the CPU and the faster it can crunch through that data, the better. Where seconds count in the enterprise, or where milliseconds count. So yeah, this is not something that general consumers are probably going to worry about, but what it does do is give you a glimpse of what Intel has coming down the road, because the high-end server stuff eventually trickles down, or at least some of the tech and features trickle down to the consumer space.
Sure. So, Paul, do you want
Yes, sir.
18 cores and 45 megs of cache in your PC?
Yeah, I wish. I don't know what I'd use it for. I mean, but yeah, that'd be nice. Bragging
Well,
rights,
it's
I guess.
interesting to see this technology, certainly out in the server space. We do tend to see a trickle-down effect of the architecture as it sort of migrates to the consumer level over the years from server big iron area. But I don't think we're going to be seeing 18-core desktop chips anytime soon. I don't know. I'll have to look down the road on the roadmap for that, but.
Well, if Intel sends me a couple of these things, you bet your ass they'll be in a desktop system.
You'll figure out a way, right?
Exactly.
Your office will heat up like a freaking brick oven, but whatever. Hey, so let's talk about something a little bit more mainstream. Let's talk about something in the mobile space, totally opposite end of the spectrum. Let's talk about the ASUS Transformer Book T300 Qi. This is a 2-in-1 Ultrabook from the folks at ASUS. It is based on Intel's Core M technology, so way other end of the spectrum now. You're talking about Broadwell Y. The low power 14-nanometer Broadwell variant is specifically powered by a Core M 5Y71, which is a dual core chip. Clocks up to 2.9 gigahertz. Let me share this guy out. No, I don't want chat. I want the share, baby. Share and present to everyone. So, yeah, can you guys see that?
I can.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is it. It's a hybrid 2-in-1, super ultralight machine. As you can see, super thin. It has 8 gig of DDR3 memory, 8 gig of DDR3 1600 memory, 128 gig SSD. Intel Core M5Y71 dual core, as I said, up to 2.9 gigahertz. And it all fits into something that is 1.6 pounds if you just look at the tablet part when detached, or 3.2 pounds with the keyboard dock, and as you can see here, it is a detachable. So it's really an interesting product. It's one of the first fanless products we've gotten in from a manufacturer so far, based on Intel's Core M technology. And the nice thing about it is it's based on the Core M 5Y71, which is an upscale version of the, what was it, the 5Y? I'm trying to think what the first iteration we saw of Broadwell Y. Marco, do you remember that model number?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I want to say 5Y50 or something like that. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of the first iteration that wasn't clocked so high, but this is a 2.9 gigahertz variant, so it's a little bit more powerful, and it actually competes with. It ran handily versus some of our standard Ultrabooks that we have in the stable here. So where you see something like a previous generation Core i5 4200U. That kind of chip, maybe even a 5000 series, it's much more on par. So yeah, 5Y10 actually was the first Core M that we saw. This is the 5Y71, and it offers a lot more punch. So nice little tight, thin and light machine, a processor with a little bit more beef. And really nice, well-built machine as well. The downside is, and again, fanless, so virtually silent. The downside is we didn't quite get the battery life we wanted from this machine, and it's one of the things where we like the higher performance chip. It actually competes with a standard Ultrabook in a hybrid 2-in-1, which is awesome. I mean, to have that kind of form factor and thin and light machine. With that kind of performance, but it's like the battery technology just hasn't caught up and afforded us the volume area to squeeze in to a device like this, and you just can't pack a big enough battery. Let me just take a quick look at their specs. 31 watt-hour battery. So when the average Ultrabook is somewhere around 45 to 50 watt-hour battery, this has got a 31 watt-hour battery. We actually realized 5 hours, a little over 5 hours in our standard web browsing test, sort of light-duty test. But in terms of proving out the form factor, you've got now a hybrid 2-in-1 device with a 2560 by 1440 super high-res IPS display, 12.5-inch LED backlit, full Windows 8.1 machine, 128 gig SSD. Flew through the benchmarks. Impressive stuff, and hopefully again that battery technology will catch up, so that we can start packing in, a little bit more capacious batteries into these thin and light machines. What do you guys think of it? I actually really like the machine. I wish it lasted a little bit longer.
Well, what would you recommend if someone was looking at something like this versus the Surface Pro 3? So I see the battery life on this is actually a little bit better than the Surface Pro 3.
Yeah, that's a good question. It really depends on what you're looking for. It's kind of right there, smack dab competitive with a Surface Pro 3. I think a Surface Pro 3 is a lot more expensive though. You're talking about $899 for the full up config that we tested with 8 gig of RAM. You can find cheaper 4 gig of RAM put-ups on this. We have the 8 gig with 128 gig SSD. And I think you can even find some lower res screens as well. I don't know if 2560 is the top end model. Maybe there's a 1920 by 1080. I'd have to look it up. But I think it's a price point. What's a Surface Pro 3 going for these days?
I think they're still starting at $799 to $899, and I've used both machines. I have a Surface Pro 3 next to me under the desk here, and have used this ASUS machine briefly. In terms of like the premium feel and overall quality, I would lean towards the Surface Pro 3. What I don't like about the Surface Pro 3 is the floppy keyboard. So if you like to work on the road, work from the couch, for some people it's not an issue with the stand and the floppy keyboard on their lap. For me, it's kind of not stable enough. So the more rigid keyboard setup, the way the Qi is set up, is where I would lean. Screen is probably better on the Surface Pro 3. So there's lots of other considerations other than just battery life and perf. There's form factor, the premium feel. if I were to drop my money down today, like if you put a gun to my head, I'd buy a Surface Pro 3, but the G is really nice.
I'm putting a gun to your head. Buy a Surface Pro. Yeah, you know, it's really kind of a toss-up. But I think you make a good point about that keyboard. I've never been a big fan of the Surface Pro line of keyboards. You know, yes, very light. You know, very convenient. You know, quickly detach. You know, detach and attach, and just super thin and light. But I just hate that ultra shallow key travel on a machine like that. Whereas this it has a much more standard keyboard, chiclet style keyboard that you'd find on, a thin and light Ultrabook, and it's going to give you a little bit better typing experience, I think, as you pointed out. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I don't know about the screen quality. We'd have to A/B these guys side to side. 2560 by 1440 IPS display, right? It's got to be competitive with a Surface Pro 3.
The three of us are keyboard snobs too, right? I mean, we're all using mechanical keyboards.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the lowest end SKU on this is $699. The top end SKU that we tested is $899. So you could find one for $100 less perhaps, but $899 for the top end SKU as we tested. Yeah, it's an interesting question, Paul. You kind of stumped us on that. I think.
That's what I'm here for. Put you guys on the spot. Keep me honest.
Yeah. Well, what would you lean towards?
Me, probably the ASUS, just because I'd wait for it to go on sale. All the third-party manufacturers is either coupon code if it's someone like Lenovo, or you go on one of the coupon sites and ASUS has it for $100, $200 off. So that's probably where I would lean if I was in the market for one.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that's a good point to make. A distinction you will find more often than not with brands like ASUS, brands like Lenovo, the third-party guys. We call them third-party, but I mean, hey, yeah, it's not a Microsoft-branded product. They do tend to have fire sales, and I would say ASUS probably more than most of the manufacturers. So good stuff, and good to see ASUS, pushing the envelope here. I think, when it comes to thin and lights, they tend to step out on occasion and do that, and it's nice to see the Core M 5Y71 out there in a thin and light variant like this. This is great. Again, I want these battery guys. I mean, if you're in this market or the tech market in general, and you're developing battery technology, that's like the holy grail right now. Like if you can figure out a way to make a thinner and lighter battery, that people will throw money at you, right? So
well, that's what we're all waiting for. I mean, we're always hearing about new battery technologies, but
yeah,
if one of them can actually come to market with that, I think you're right. Yeah, it'd be a game changer for sure.
Yeah, what's that movie? There was a movie out a while ago that somebody had, what was it?
About batteries?
Yeah, well, no, there was a movie out, a sci-fi movie, and the kid had the recipe for like the everlasting self-sustaining battery. Like the thing was a little reactor in itself. It was a power source. I forget the movie.
Whoever that kid is, he stole the idea from Tony Stark's arc reactor, and I don't like that kid.
Well, I think it was it? I wonder if that movie came out before Tony Stark did Iron Man. It's a while ago, so maybe I'm dating myself. But all right, let's move on. Marco, what did you look at? Let's see. Oh yeah, you were looking at NUCs, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Well, let's go the complete other direction with Intel. So I recently took a look at two systems, both from Intel, both extremely, at the opposite end of the spectrum of those Xeons. So first, let me hold this guy up here. This is the Intel Compute Stick. Can you guys see that guy there? This little puppy. So the Compute Stick. This is kind of a interesting little device. This whole system, and yes, this is a whole rig, is about $150. It's got a quad-core Bay Trail processor in there, 2 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage, but it also has a microSD expansion slot, and pre-installed with Windows 8.1 with Bing. Now, the way it's supposed to be used is this is an HDMI connector here. Just plug it into any display, whether it's a TV or a monitor that has an HDMI connector. And then it's powered through this micro USB port, so just the feed right through that micro USB port. and you essentially can turn any display into a system. Now, it's not super fast. It's only got quad-core Bay Trail, but for what it's designed for, it's kind of, really perfect for those use cases. Just to give some examples, it can do the in-home streaming from Steam. The built-in 802.11n wireless isn't ideal. If you're close enough to your router, it works, though. I've tested it. It's also great for like thin client applications if you just need something to remote into, or use this to remote into a more powerful PC. It works great. Digital signage type applications, things like that. It's just a full PC crammed down into something barely bigger than a thumb drive, with quad-core Bay Trail. Really cool little device. So have you guys seen these up close yet?
Yeah, I saw that thing at CES and I was blown away. What's the experience like on it though? I'm looking at it thinking to myself, yeah, okay, it's Atom and Bay Trail. The latest variant of Bay Trail has probably got some pretty good, chops to it. But does it feel snappy? Is it responsive?
Think of it as a high-end Intel-based tablet without a screen. That's kind of the experience. The storage is faster than what I've tested in some tablets, but yeah, it's Bay Trail. It's not a full core class processor, so not the fastest processor technology from Intel, but perfectly usable for basic stuff. Browsing the web, using it to remote into a more powerful PC, no problem at all. The in-home streaming just worked. Feels like you're playing on the other PC. So for what it's designed for, the experience is actually pretty good. It is, first-gen product, so there are things I'd like to see change. It would be awesome if it had 802.11 AC built in. Also, another USB port. It only has one full-size USB port, so if you plug in a keyboard and mouse, you're done. So if you want to plug in anything other than input devices, you have to connect it to a hub, basically, is what it amounts to. But for $150, man, like there's so many applications I would use it for. If you want a PC set up at someone else's house for remote support kind of stuff, just plug it into their display, leave it back there. They don't even have to know it's there. I would love to leave one of these at like my parents' house so I can access the router or things like that, just for basic setup. It's just a cool little device for $150.
Yeah, interesting. That's what I wonder with these things. I mean, they sound really interesting, in terms of concept and technology, but it's the use case, and having something that you can prove out and make fully functional in some sort of use case, whatever the use case is. I personally have always, I've gotten little machines like that, little tiny machines like that, and thought, oh yeah, hook it up to my TV. It's going to make an instant smart TV, but I never end up really living with it for too long. And but I'm sure there's lots of folks that would make like little micro servers out of these things, and who knows what, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's actually a decent little home theater PC. Install Kodi on there, you're ready to go.
Paul, would you run something like this?
Probably not, just because I don't have a need for it. But I know you're getting to the NUC, and that I would. I'm a big fan of the mini PCs that we're seeing these days.
Oh, you mean this?
Yeah. And I have a question for you, actually. Is Intel on the retail box with that, when you open it, are they still playing the jingle? Because I have mine from back in the day. Remember that?
Nice.
So I did not get a full retail package with this one, so I can't answer for sure. I'm not sure. I think they are still doing that, though. But this is like, as of this generation, this is the killer NUC. This is let me get the model number right here. This is the NUC 5 i7 RYH. So this guy has a Core i7 5557U processor with Iris Pro 6100 series graphics. Now the processor can turbo up to 3.4. Let me just double check that I'm correct on that. Yeah, turbo. It's a dual core quad thread, can turbo up to 3.4 gigahertz. Integrated Iris Pro 6100 series graphics. This is one of the taller models that can support both an M.2 SSD and a standard 2.5-inch drive, and you can have both populated at the same time. So, if you want a 1 terabyte hard drive for storage plus a fast SSD for the OS, you can do it with this little rig. Connectivity is basically the same on all of these latest NUCs. You have USB headphone and IR on the front, vents on the sides, a lock port on one side, and the back is power, DisplayPort, Ethernet, 2 more USBs, and a mini HDMI connector, plus a couple more vents. And again, like the other NUCs, this particular model is also bare bones, so it ships without memory or drives or an OS, so you have to put all that in yourself. But in terms of performance, this thing is pretty quick for what it is. In the benchmarks, with 16 gigs of RAM in it and a Samsung SSD, it hung with some of the reference desktop systems I've built over the years, specifically like a Core i5-4670 class kind of system. It also hung with the AMD APU-based systems I tested. Now, in terms of graphics, the 6100 series Iris is a marginal step up over the HD 6000, not nearly as fast as the Iris Pro 5200 series from the previous gen. Not sure if there's going to be a higher-end Iris Pro in a NUC at this point. But pretty speedy little system. The only downside is when you're really cranking on this guy, the fan can get kind of loud. So it's not ideal for home theater applications. But if someone wants a tiny, fast desktop PC, it's pretty kick-ass.
Nice, nice. So, cool. We talked about NUCs. We talked about compute sticks. What are you laughing about?
It's like, let's get off this stuff. Let's get
No, I wasn't saying that. I wasn't thinking that at all. I mean, I'm just thinking we've been talking a lot of Intel.
All right, I gotcha.
No. Actually, we're going to switch gears a little bit. I'm having trouble with the window switching now in Google Hangouts, so forgive me, folks. But let's talk mobile. And we've been covering quite a bit in the phone arena these days. Specifically, our editor Corey took a look at the Samsung Galaxy S6. He converted from an iPhone. I've taken a look at the Galaxy S6 and the S6 Edge as well as the LG G4 and the HTC One M9. I've actually got all 3 devices right here. Let's show these off. LG G4, really bright. Sorry about that. But the nice thing about LG, there, that's a little bit better, less glare. 5.5-inch display, and they squeeze it into this phone that isn't a whole heck of a lot bigger than a Galaxy S6. And let's just hold these up. They're able to get that big display in there, because obviously, as you can see, not a heck of a lot of bezel going on. So LG G4, Galaxy S6, super premium, nice phone. And HTC One M9 right here. I don't know if I can fire him up too. Yeah, there we go. HTC One M9. Again, another very well-built phone. So there's some really good hardware out there these days, and there's a lot to choose from versus, the good ship Apple. And we've been sort of bantering back and forth amongst the team, and then certainly in Corey's article, cheating on his iPhone 4 with the Samsung Galaxy S6 was sort of the angle we took. And the bottom line is, these days, the refinements that manufacturers are coming out with over Android Lollipop, with the hardware that's on board, whether it be in the Samsung Galaxy S6, they've got an octa-core Exynos processor there, or the HTC One M9, which is the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon 810, and the LG G4 Snapdragon 808, I think, right? Yeah, 6-core chip. You've got some really powerful hardware. You've got some big, beautiful screens, and really, really nice, well-built phones these days, such that the experience in Android, I think, and I don't know if you guys chime in with your opinion as well, is certainly as polished as anything Apple can offer these days. And the handsets now have reached a quality level, and that was sort of the big knock against Samsung, right? The quality level of the actual build quality of the hardware is easily on par with an iPhone. And I think actually the Galaxy S6 in many ways is probably my favorite in terms of build quality. It's just super tight. People knock on it obviously because the bottom here looks very Apple iPhone-esque. But I would offer that the build quality and the display on this guy is just, it's like the best there is in the market. I think personally. super AMOLED display. It's gorgeous, and it's really kind of a nice balance, 5.1-inch display. Nice balance in terms of size. But the products that are out there these days, I mean, it's just awesome time in Android handsets. What do you guys think?
I'm gonna let Paul go first because I'm gonna go on a rant.
He's gonna go on a rant. Uh-oh, Paul.
I feel like you're setting me up here because you know that I prefer iOS over Android. Yeah, I'm still using a HTC One, the M7, and I know Marco did an article a while back about Android bit rot, and that's been my experience with different Android devices. The longer I use them, I run into little quirks that I can't explain. Maybe messaging doesn't work right, or apps will start to freeze, and I know everybody will say, well, what do you have installed? Uninstall this and that, and all I really use my phone for is messaging and Facebook, and making calls. So I know there's something besides me that's going on. So.
Yeah, everybody technical that I know agreed with me on that, and then all the non-technical people said I was nuts, and Apple must have paid me to write that, but whatever. So,
well, that's the thing. If you say anything bad, you get torched. So.
Yeah, exactly. It gets flaky over time. Like I'm at the point right now with like basically all of the handsets. I put Windows Phone 10. Windows 10 for phones on my Lumia 1520, and I despise it. I hate my phone now. It's just so bad in so many regards. I want to smash it.
Really?
Yeah. You know my feelings towards Apple products. I'm not a huge fan of the iPhone. And now, as nice as a lot of this new generation of Android phones are, I love. Well, I'm not gonna say I love. I totally dig the updated, really premium feel of the S6, but it takes away lots of those kind of geeky things about the Galaxy series that I used to like back in the day, like being able to plug in memory cards, swappable batteries, making it easier to do kind of custom ROMs and things like that when you have access to that kind of stuff. LG has those features, but you lose the premium feel. The HTC One M9 looks exactly the same as the last two generations, so they're all really nice, but none of them have really grabbed me like I'd want to go have that. So I'm like basically turned off to every phone platform right now. I'm not excited about, they're nice. I'm not excited about any of the Android phones. I'm not excited about an iPhone, and Microsoft has murdered my Lumia. So I think I have to ride it out for a few months and get in a better place mentally.
Well, you didn't mention BlackBerry, so maybe that's the next one for you to try.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You didn't mention BlackBerry, so maybe that's your next phone.
They
need your business, Marco.
If you were sitting next to me, I might throw a drink on you after that.
Listen, you're a little crotchety and grumpy.
I'm grumpy today. I'm sorry.
I would totally disagree. I think the Samsung Galaxy S6, and this is going to sound like Samsung paid me, and they didn't. This is a phone. This is one of the first, and I get a lot of phones in here, and a lot of times I'll shoot the video and then send them off to people on the team to do the full review. So I touch a lot of devices. This is the first phone in a long time that I've said, oh my head, I want that. I really want that. This phone is gorgeous, and I would offer that what Samsung did with TouchWiz even, and I can hear the pitchforks coming out now, right? TouchWiz is even refined such that it's not as big and clunky and bright and too contrasty in the way like it used to be. It's a little bit lighter skin now, and it actually adds some functionality that, frankly, Lollipop tends to, they're so focused on this minimalistic approach now that Lollipop in spots feels really drab, and you tend to poke around at it a little bit more trying to find settings and stuff, or TouchWiz sort of brings some of the basic stuff to the surface a little bit easier, I think. And so I actually don't mind TouchWiz on this thing. I don't know, maybe I had the lobotomy, but I really like this phone.
No, they're the nicest generation of Android phones. Like, if I were to separate myself from everything, they're the best Android phones out there. The iPhone 6, 6 Plus, they're the best iPhones that it's the best iPhones that have existed. It's just,
wait a minute, you said iPhones. You mean Android phones?
Well, no, I'm talking about both. So, like, all
Oh,
the Android devices you mentioned are the best generation of Android devices. The latest iPhones are better than the previous generation iPhones. It's just nothing right now makes me go, wow, and want me to grab it. Like, there's just something wrong with each one that I look at right now.
yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, with this phone, you don't get the user replaceable battery. Honestly, you know, my phone prior to this was a Samsung Galaxy S5 with the removable backing. I liked having that, you know, being able to pull the battery and, you know, get at the SIM card back there a little bit easier than, you know, poking in the side edge for a SIM slot or something like that. But honestly, I didn't use it much. Now you would, because you're, you know, Mr. ROM cooker, and you know, you're not cooker, but you're always trying out new software and tinkering around more than the average bear. I would say for the mainstream, this phone is probably the one device that gives Apple a run for their money. HTC One M9 is gorgeous too. You touched on the LG G4 and the premium feel. Yeah, damn it. You know, these guys could have knocked it out of the park with this phone if it wasn't for that plastic backing. Now, you know, it's a catch-22. The nice thing about the plastic backing is it comes off real easy, and, you know, you can just yank this sucker off, and, you know, you're right at your battery. You know, you're right there in a nanosecond. But I don't know. Is there a way to make a metal backing that snaps on and off easy? I mean, can we figure that one out?
Well, let me ask you this: do you put your phones in a case, or do you just use them as they are?
I tend to put them in a case. It depends on the device.
See, I end up putting mine in a case now that most of the warranties have a deductible, so I don't even bother with the warranties. But I put them in a case, and then premium feels right out the window once you do that. For me, anyway.
Interesting point. You know, I didn't even think of that, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one because, I mean, you know, you just pick up the phone, you look at it, you feel it. It's a gorgeous handset, and, you know, I probably would, you know, I'd have a screen protector on this, but I might risk it a little bit because it is that nice, and it's so thin too. It's like, you know, this in your pocket is nothing compared to, like, I'm using like Samsung Galaxy Edge right now, Note Edge, and that thing's huge and bulky and blech. But Marco's grumpy Gus, though. He doesn't like.
No, I'm not grumpy. It's just there was a time when the new generation got me excited, and I wanted to, you know, upgrade. Let me just kill that. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, everybody. You know, there was a time when I'd want to upgrade my phones like I upgrade my PC. This generation just hasn't done it. They're nice. I'm not saying they're not nice. They're really nice. It's just doesn't do it for me right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's we can move on and let's talk about something really quick before we tease the last little bit that folks might be interested in. We are doing a giveaway and we'll tell you all about that. It's ongoing right now. But this little fella we took a look at, this month as well, last couple of weeks. This is the WD MyCloud EX2100 NAS network attached storage device. And dang, I mean, look at how small that little sucker is. And instant, as you can see, hot swap bays here. Instantaneous automatic RAID 1 for your little cloud, your personal cloud, as WD likes to explain. Has branded with this. This product, interestingly enough, does very well at HotHardware. We get a ton of viewers that come out of the woodwork to check this stuff out. Cloud storage is big these days. WD has branded very well with the MyCloud brand, so they've gotten some serious traction. But what's interesting about this is how simple and easily set up this NAS is. You know, again, automatic RAID 1. You pop 2 drives in there. These are actually a pair of 4 terabyte drives, so an 8 terabyte configuration. 4 terabyte, 8 terabyte configuration if you do RAID 0, 4 RAID 1. I would obviously do RAID 1 for redundancy. Who needs? I mean, you might need that kind of capacity, but you're nuts if you're running your NAS with anything but redundancy, I think. But you know, a lot of folks these days are looking at this for the home, whether it be to store, you know, those family photos or videos or what have you, or your movie collection if you're you know a digital movie buff. You know, great stuff. And these days the home NAS has come a long way in terms of refinement. Marco, you've played around with a lot of NAS boxes in your time. What do you think about this guy and what's out there these days in the NAS world?
That's a really, really nice device. It's basically fast enough to saturate a gigabit network link, so it's as fast as it's gonna get in a home environment with the standard gigabit network. What WD makes it super easy to set up. You can get different, multiple storage capacities. So if you need more space, you can go. I think that one goes up to 4 terabytes or 6 terabytes, but that's rated, so that's with redundancy. Awesome. That particular device I think is awesome. What I think lots of mainstream consumers don't get is the convenience of network attached storage. Think of it as a single repository, tons of storage for anything connected to your network. So I get lots of folks that still back up to burn up DVDs or external hard drives, stuff like that. It's like you could just have one NAS, and if you want to be really paranoid, maybe 2 and mirror them to each, so you have 2 copies, but one central repository, all your stuff, bang, right in the network, no messy cables. You can have it in a closet wherever your network connections are available. These WD devices in particular are very nice.
And I'm not as familiar with some of the media sharing capabilities built into this thing, but this has what is it? Different DLNA and all that different stuff.
It has all that's built right in. You also have remote access through an app on mobile devices. There are other third-party apps available, media servers, things like that. It's basically a tiny PC running a custom OS with all of these little apps available for it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I run a setup now currently that I think a lot of folks, probably don't have but should. If you have a home desktop system where, it's where you hook up your phone, it's where you hook up your flash cards from your video camera, what have you, and you dump your media to. Certainly, if you're doing, your home office work, you've got all your documents and files on there as well. I run a RAID 1 setup in my desktop now. It's a workstation. We run a business on it too, obviously, and I run RAID 1 in that system. But then I also have a mirror on the NAS, and so you've got redundancy in the RAID 1 on the desktop system, and then you've got redundancy in RAID 1 on the NAS. So you've got double fault, redundancy. And if a drive goes in any one of those, you're backed up twice, and you've also got RAID, the benefit of RAID 1 in this case for a 2-drive NAS. I think you're nuts if you don't. And hard drives are so cheap, bulk storage is so cheap. You just got to do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Paul, what do you have? Don't tell us, Paul, that you're not running safe file system.
You're gonna yell, but yeah, I'm not. I have a few of my more important files backed up to the cloud, and that's about it. But yeah, I know I need local backup and probably offsite as well.
So you trust your stuff to the cloud exclusively, offsite, away from you. If a service goes belly up or it's not available, you don't get.
No, if I have a lot of important stuff, I wouldn't, but I don't. So the few things that I need, I do trust. Throw it on OneDrive. It's there.
I think you're nuts. I think you're living dangerously.
I would trust the cloud for the security of my data. I don't trust the eyes seeing it. They'd probably drag me away in a straitjacket if I put all my stuff up in the cloud.
Well, that says something about you, Marco.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it says, but it says something.
Well, you just got all 3 of us put on a list, so.
Oh, I did that way long time ago.
No, I think that's what's interesting about this product and what WD branded with it, with MyCloud, the MyCloud brand, is that I think the cloud offsite, the cloud service, whether it be Box or whatever, we use Dropbox to transfer files amongst each other, that kind of stuff. I think there's obviously plenty of value to that. I think you're nuts if you don't keep your own copy locally and have redundancy built into that file system. Personally, I think it's great to have the convenience of the cloud service on the go that you can connect to easily with multiple devices. But you got to take care of the important stuff. Kind of like, back in the old days, which people probably still do, but not as much. The safe, the fireproof safe, right, for those important documents. People either keep them in a safety deposit box at the bank or in a safe at home. This is the same thing. You've got digital data, valuable digital data, whether it be those memories that you can't replace in a simple picture or something really important like a legal document that's in digital form. If you're not running redundant, I think a redundant file system at home, storing it locally too, you're running a risk. You're trusting it too much.
Do you have an offsite backup as well?
I'm guilty of not having an offsite backup. Actually, I run all local here. You're right. If I had a house fire, maybe I'd lose it.
So I'm gonna give you just a quick story on why both is probably a good idea. I've helped people with just basic tech support problems, and this story's nuts. So this one particular business got hit with one of those crypto viruses, the ones that they hit your machine and basically encrypt all photos, office documents, anything that's local, connected local, or on a mapped network drive.
Holy crap.
Right, yeah, they're really scary, and it's ransomware. You have to pay to get an unlock key, and you're paying criminal, so maybe or maybe not. Maybe you get a key, maybe you don't. You just handed them money, and they don't give you anything, and you're still screwed. So, in this one instance, their on-site backups, their on-site secondary backups had failed. So, desktop systems, mapped network drives on one server, all encrypted. Backups were old. So if you had off-site backup that wasn't on that local network, that situation would have been avoided. Even if one of them fails, if you have that off-site cloud, it's helpful. But we're not talking about exciting stuff here, so.
It's important stuff, and no, you make a good point. Yeah, I think obviously the best of both worlds is both. Redundancy in the local file system, in your own personal cloud, as well as the external cloud, because then you're offsite, and I mean that's the way the data centers run too, right? I mean, these big storage companies like EMC and all these big guys and big iron storage for the enterprise. That's the way they do it. They have a local copy and then they have an offsite network copy. The place blows up, your files are still alive. So, all right, let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about. We've got a little sweepstakes going on, a little giveaway going on. Marco, why don't you tell the viewers what we're giving away, and I will cue it up so they can see it.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to tell them because I think the fewer people I tell, the better chances I get to keep it. No, all right. So
you ain't keeping anything.
I know. I'm just kidding. So yeah, we have a very, very cool giveaway going right now. We've partnered up with CyberPower's Cyber Gaming Division, and we have a Core i5 based small form factor rig with EVGA GeForce GTX 970 graphics, 16 gigs of RAM, a 250 gig Samsung SSD 850 EVO, plus 1 terabyte hard drive, Intel Z97 motherboard in this super tiny, slick, console-sized case. Awesome little rig and super easy to enter. You just have to come by the site, like a couple of Facebook pages, comment and participate on our site. Our whole point with this is we want to foster some community, get you guys chatting things up, get some fans on our social media pages, and that's it. Very, very cool rig, very easy to win. Super nice rig. Come by, check it out.
Yeah, so this thing has got a Core i5 4690 and then an EVGA GeForce GTX 970, huh?
Yep.
16 gig of RAM, 250 gig Samsung SSD 850 EVO, and a 1 terabyte Seagate hard drive.
Yeah, so all those specs I just read, Dave's reading them out again for you.
Oh, really? I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. I was presenting. No, it's a pretty cool rig.
That's why I'm being grumpy.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. So, Paul, you can't win this either.
Yeah. Do you want me to read the specs though again one more time?
God, don't
Paul's
do
got something
Don't do
cool.
that. I've already
If
insulted
you look-
everyone's intelligence enough.
if
No,
you
it's,
look
I'm
over-
impressed with it. We like to. Paul, you actually took a look at this, right? You reviewed this.
Yes, and I still have it ready to ship to the winner. So take your time with this contest. I'm more than happy to burn it in for the winner.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff, and the folks from CyberPower have helped us out by sponsoring this. So stop by the site, check it out, jump in, make yourself visible and known, and you could win it. Marco, when's this thing end?
I think, what do we got? May 30th, I think. Let me go double check on the post. I think we have a couple more weeks at least. I am clicking right now. 1 second. I don't remember. Yes, we're going to run it through May 29th. So Friday, May 29th, we'll probably announce a couple days later after we go through all of the entries, and that's it.
Beauty. So if you're looking to find out where we are, we're all around the web. You can stop by HotHardware.com, of course. That's the place. But we're on Facebook as well, facebook.com/HotHardware, twitter.com/HotHardware, youtube.com, where probably you may be even viewing this if you're not on Google Hangouts, youtube/HotHardwareVids, and Google Plus is like, I don't know, plus dot whatever plus HotHardware, right? I always screw up the URL, but they make it difficult. But Paul, you got anything to add before we say goodbye to these faithful viewers?
Hey, had a good time. That's about it.
It's been good having you with us, Paul. We like having you with us. I think we'll make it a more frequent thing. Marco, you think Paul made the cut this week?
I think he did. I think the hat and that awesome Warcraft server over his shoulder make it.
Paul, can you reach that thing?
I can if you want to take a look.
Show him the Warcraft server. Show us, Paul.
Watch me drop it on Google. Hang on.
Yeah, baby. Look at that thing. So what is that, Paul? Is that a Xeon
That
server?
is one of the old servers. When they upgraded, they sold them off, and I think the funds went to St. Jude's. They had auctions on eBay. And we actually have an article somewhere in HotHardware where I took a bunch of pictures and kind of detailed some of what's in there. So
Yeah,
you can dig out that URL, check that out.
That's cool stuff. Yeah, hop on HotHardware and check out the Warcraft server. If you do a little search, you'll be able to find it. But thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll be back hopefully in the next week or so with another episode of 2.5 Geeks. Thanks for stopping by. Say bye, Marco.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Apologies for getting Paul on a list and being so snarky with Dave. I'm just being cranky today.
Bye-bye.